Hey y'all.
Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning, Jim. Uh, how are things over in Hawaii?
Absolutely gorgeous as usual.
All
Even when
right.
it's even when it's raining, it's beautiful.
Awesome.
Hello,
Uh, hey Rich.
how's it going?
It's going pretty well.
Hi, Jim.
Good morning. I'm playing around with a private YouTube channel, which is new for me. Um, but I've been working on lessons 2, 3, and 4 kind of simultaneously because there's overlap between them. So I've got something actually that I prepped for Unit 4 that I can throw the link to the YouTube channel in. Just for folks, it's a little 4-minute video about using Google Gemini and Notebook together for doing research, and so it's adapted from HubSpot. Put out a really good little uh, infographic about it. So I just took their infographic and kind of adopted it for the fire service. So I'll
Great.
throw that link into the chat and people can take a look and have fun with that.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to hear you are proceeding down the road. That's amazing. Um, Welcome everybody to our 11th meeting. We have, as I talked about last time in the last meeting, we've sort of shifted just from this AI education to um, this larger readiness and adoption committee, which is collapsing the remaining committees in the phase 2 iteration of the adoption committee into this space. So we will be having conversations about AI education here, as well as some of the policy elements from the policy committee. And Sahir Noor is here today, and she's the co-lead and will be joining us in these meetings going forward, as I explained last time. I will kick us off again. If you're new or if you're not, share where your name and where you're coming from in the chat, um, and continue to engage in the chat on anything that you think is great or resources that you want to share there. I am gonna switch to my presentation here for you, um, and kick us off. So, um, our agenda today, welcome and introductions, which we always kick off with. We're going to do just a quick overview of what we talked about last time. Jim, one thing we didn't get to in the last meeting was Jim's walkthrough, or our walkthrough of the Fire and AI deck. So he's going to spend some time walking through that deck with us, and we really would appreciate your feedback on the course and the content and anything. We're at the sort of the last stages of this before we get this posted on our public sector network um, landing page for this. This will be the first output of our AI education efforts. So we're very excited about that. I'm really excited for Jim to show you that information. And then we'll have some touch points on other project updates. We'll talk about some policy related issues at the end, and then some of our ongoing action items, as always, tying us up. So just really briefly, last time we had a really great presentation from the city of Austin. Brad, Sharon, and Aza co-presented on the work that they've been doing with the city of Austin. They had a great survey of 1,500 people, really tapped into usage trends, sort of people's comfort level with AI and concerns about environmental impact. And then that was tied up with a really interesting and ethical framework that they've developed from this research, which was really interesting. So, in the meeting recap notes that I sent around, I shared the PowerPoint deck that Brad had shared with us from that. And if you're really interested in that feedback, it was a really great presentation, and that's in the recording of the meeting, which was also sent around in the meeting notes last time. So if you missed last meeting, really encourage you to go and digest that information. Um, we also had a call to action from Meg to distribute the survey link to agencies, to your agencies and socials to try to get as much feedback from both people that work in agencies, but also people and residents in our communities to give us feedback to help shape that content. And we'll hopefully get an update from Meg on where that's at later. And then we had a side conversation that popped up about upskilling and how AI and skill building can be tied to use cases. And there's been some thought and action around that, which we'll update at the end of the meeting as well. So that's what we left off with. So Jim, I'm going to turn this over to you to make space for you to talk and walk us through the AI and the fire service deck here.
Awesome. So first, a little background for any folks who are new. The idea was to start building out specific training that is consistent with the GovAI's position on all the governance primarily. But the fire service has some really unique things, public safety, police. So we are targeting, just because of my expertise in the fire service, targeting the fire service first. And the idea was to build out first a lesson that's kind of an introduction, but I had that be part of a whole course. So this is lesson 1 is what we're seeing. And we'll see that this lesson, I'll put it up in a second, lesson focuses heavily on kind of the background of AI and the quality of the outputs that we can get now if we use it correctly. But also philosophically, we're building it out using AI. So kind of like putting our money where our mouth is, we're using AI to build the classes. For the time being with the current lesson, all the narration was written by hand and then just cleaned up with AI. And that's really for 2 reasons. It allows us to we're using 11 labs for the voice currently, but it allows us to have multiple content creators work and end with a consistent product. And then I think it's also important that we are showing the tools while we're building the tools, right? So we're demonstrating tools through the process of creating these lessons, and we're using the tools at the same time. So I'll give you a walkthrough. And this is just, if this is a good view for folks, then perfect. But looking through the introduction is essentially these first 3 slides talk about the introduction to the course. So it gives you kind of a fundamental foundation of where the course is going. And then we go into the actual lesson itself, objectives. There's a quick demonstration just to grab their attention at the beginning of the lesson of something you can do with AI. So it goes in, does this, and then we go into quite a lengthy discussion about what is AI, what are some of the current, we're choosing a definition of the levels of AGI, ASI, some competitive benchmarks on coding. We use the coding benchmark to look at where AI has progressed, and the MMLU benchmark. And basically the narration along these slides just talks about how the progression is continuing to advance. So we're seeing this geometric hockey stick progression of the quality and the speed of advancement. So this is probably the first 15 minutes of the lesson. We have a quiz built in. Now, the quizzes will be automated when it gets up on the GovAI or on the Public Sector Network website. And then we go into talking about what are chatbots, what is ChatGPT, what they can and can't do. Interestingly, I've had to already modify this particular slide a couple of times because what Gemini's advancing like every 2 weeks. They're releasing new stuff. And what I said in the previous lesson, what was actually published, is not true anymore. So I've gone through and done an update for this that actually shows that, yeah, Gemini can do some things now that it couldn't before. We hit reliability and ethics pretty heavy because I think this is a big deal. We talk about governance, transparency, and bias. So these slides go through here. And please, if anybody wants to pipe in and say, hey, the format looks good, doesn't look good, I can play a couple of slides for you. These all have narration built into them. But again, for time's sake, I'm just trying to go through this quickly. Transparency, bias, and then we have safety and data security. Now, for the only section we're not repeating is the initial section on AI quality. Everything else will get a lesson further on down the course that goes into more depth about these individual things. So we will revisit all of these things in future lessons at more depth. So another quiz, and then we go into implementation and change management. And this is actually the focus of lesson 2 is change management and implementation. And we just have some information here about the 5 steps. It doesn't show up on this. I'm going to go ahead and show this slide so you can see what the 5 steps are.
Next, we're going to move on to the 5 steps to implementing AI. This is a simple way to start implementing AI in your organization. First, we want to look at change management. AI is new, and adopting it means rethinking processes and helping people adjust. Managing this change ensures a smooth transition by preparing your team for what's coming. Your data is the next consideration. You'll need to look at how your data is structured and prepare your data for internal and external access. Introducing artificial intelligence into your organization isn't just a...
So you get an idea what the voice is going to be like and how it looks as you're going through the lesson. So change management, data preparation, use cases, de-risking threats, and governance are the 5 steps that we address in as far as implementation. And then we'll do that again in lesson 2, revisit those things. Quiz 3, and then we go into specifics, some use case demonstrations. So we'll demonstrate using Notebook LM, ChatGPT, and this initial demonstration is just a kind of a comparative analysis to look at a particular document and then have it do an analysis on how we can use that document. And again, this is aimed at the fire service, so specifically for different parts of the fire service, targeting either professionals or the general public is the demonstration that we do. And we'll do a similar demonstration with Gemini. Well, Gemini would basically show, hey, Gemini can't do some of this stuff, so you might want to look for a different tool. And then we go through and do the same comparative analysis with Claude, ChatGPT, just showing the different things. We go into then a use case of meeting note taking. And this was really interesting, having a policy discussion about how this affects public agencies. So this will be a big lesson when we get around to doing the follow-up lesson on meeting note taking. And we'll dig more into the policy considerations. And these are just the ones that we happen to choose at this time. Screen App, Tactic, and Otter AI. Otter seems to be the most popular of all of the note-taking apps right now. And they have benefits and strengths and weaknesses to all of them. And then we go into the last quiz with the unit summary. So that's kind of where that is at as far as what we're looking at for the overall course. This is where it's going to start off with the introductory lesson. We then move into a shorter lesson on implementation strategies and change management. And in here, I've actually built out a custom GPT for doing SWOT analysis. So there's a handout or a form that they'll fill out to work through change management strategies and then work with a custom GPT in developing those change management strategies, implementation strategies. And then we'll go into more depth in document review and analysis, AI-powered document generation. I'm working on those 3 lessons right now. And then we'll move into documentation, meeting documentation and knowledge management. And this is where we're going to have to really dig into a lot of the policy implications, especially for California governments. Risk analysis, predictive analytics, resource management planning, training simulations, and then just a summary of what we see coming in the future, which by the time we get there may be the past. I'm really not sure. So that in a nutshell. Any questions before I turn off my screen sharing? All right, should be back to Rich now.
I think Albert had a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't see the chat while I was presenting.
That's okay.
No problem. Jim, I had a question in the chat. In the dialogue, like when we first present ChatGPT and the other tools, I'm wondering if we can add just a actually both a verbal and like a visual tag somewhere on that first slide where we showed ChatGPT. I think it was like slide 12 or something, just to say, hey, look, this is not an endorsement of ChatGPT. We're going to be using it and other tools as core examples for the concepts, but you know, this is more about the principles that it can apply to all of these tools. Um, we're showing ChatGPT as an example, but you can use a variety of them.
Yeah, I think I'm going through because one of the things we built this out in PowerPoint,
Right.
and one of the things I'm pretty sure we did is in the notes. I think we do say that we're not that all the tools can do similar things. We're not endorsing any one thing, but yeah, I think we can certainly make that um, more obvious, maybe because there's one slide we open up with ChatGPT, and then it shows Claude, Perplexity, Copilot, Gemini as other chatbots. So that's part of that discussion. But if you want to make it more obvious that we're not supporting or we're not directing anybody one particular way, we can update that language pretty easy.
Yeah, I think even if it's like a little box or a call out box that's just on that slide, um, that way even if someone has the PowerPoint and they take, they see it out of context or they don't have the audio, they can be like, okay, that's, you know, not
That makes
endorsement.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to write that down.
Great. Well, I think we'll try to make that standard across all of the outputs from the group. So that's a good call out for that. Appreciate that,
Yeah.
Albert. Um, are there any questions from the group? Any comments about the deck that Jim walked through? And we're looking for feedback, substance wise, style wise, anything that you liked, didn't like. We'd love to hear that feedback. I know it was a quick walkthrough. If you'd like us to call something back up and look at it really quickly, that would be fine too. But raise your hand if you have any feedback for us, because we want to vet it through this group before it goes out publicly. I see a thumbs up in the chat on the visual design. And I do want to give a call out to RGS ex-intern Shari Lukman, who helped with the graphics and visual elements of the deck. She has since moved on from RGS to a full-time job at UCI Irvine, but she has said that she is available to help us with future decks in the future, ad hoc pro bono. So she's available if we need additional support. So
Rich, I can post. I've got that video on my YouTube channel too. I can post that link in the chat because I know it's a lot to ask people to digest this in 30 seconds.
sure,
It
that would
runs
be
a
great.
little over 50 minutes. If somebody wants to watch the whole thing, it's a video format, and then we might get some better feedback that way too.
Yeah, that would be great. And we are in the final stages of working with the public sector network to get the sort of our GovAI landing page set up and then host that training there. So if you can get us feedback soon, that would be great because we're hoping to get that to them as soon as we can and get that page set up. And then once we have that landing page, we'll probably bring that back to this group just to show what that looks like and how that's going to be structured on that page. I think we just had a message the other day from Charlie from Public Sector Network asking for a few final questions and figuring out how the landing page is going to look. So we'll get all that sewn up with them. So
Rich, if it's this is me just throwing this out here. Um, we can share the link to this YouTube. It seems like people can add comments directly to the YouTube video as potential feedback, and maybe we can set a timeline for, you know, Wednesday and next week, just for folks
yeah,
to, if they have any feedback on it that they'd like to add additionally, um, for this.
that's great. And I will make sure to include that link in the deadline to give feedback in the meeting notes that I send out after this. So thank you. And thank you, Jim, for doing that walkthrough with us today. You've put so much work into this, and I think it's going to be a great intro course. And the other thing I really liked, I mentioned this last week, was that I think it lines up really nicely with the content that the city of Austin presented in their survey, because a lot of those elements were about not really understanding AI and not understanding, how accurate AI can be, or, confidence in the results, which I think some of that content really speaks to in the middle of Jim's presentation, or the onset where he's talking about AI and the stats around AI. And then also that ethics and reliability section lined up really nicely with the ethics framework that I think they presented last week. So it was really nice to see some synergy from real-time data and what Jim had already created. So kudos to Jim for all of his hard work on this. So very exciting. So next, I just want to touch base on some of our other projects that are brewing. We've got quite a few of these now. It's very exciting to see lots of energy going in different, um, into different niche areas within this working group. And it's been great to see. And I don't know if Meg is on the call today, or anybody from the public engagement training that wants to speak to this. I have a few bullets that I pulled in. Do you see Meg on here, Albert? Let me look through this. Doesn't look like she's here today, I don't think. But the big takeaway from last week was to seeking feedback from the survey. And this survey, if you're new to the service or to this working group, the survey that Meg's put together is for multiple parties. It can be if you're an agency employee, if you work at a community-based organization, or if you're just a community member or resident in, that's being served by a city or a county or other local government. And it's just about what information would be helpful to sort of get us moving towards developing the content for our resident facing education around AI that can be delivered perhaps through libraries or through other public meetings. So that survey link, I'll see if I can find it and in the meeting notes and get that into the chat. But her big ask was that we distribute that, ask our agencies to distribute that survey or post them on your own socials, or get your agencies to post them on their socials, just to start getting some really concrete feedback. And the give back for that is, as Meg gets data and publishes that, anybody who's shared that link can get access to that data and the information that's generated by it. So we would really appreciate you distributing that survey. And let me see if I can find that. I have it here in my meeting notes. Okay.
Rich, I've got the survey. I'll put it in the chat in a sec.
Great. Thank you so much, Albert. So the other thing that has been brewing is a discussion around AI and insurance and risk management, and sort of the issues that are going on there. And I'm going to see if Nicole is on the call today. I don't see is Nicole on the call today? I don't see her. We can talk to this one too if she's not on the call. Basically, Albert and I have met with Nicole from Prism and Tom from Prism, who are regular attendees of this meeting, talking about preparing some AI education materials related to insurance and risk management. And Nicole has done a really deep dive into exploring some facets of this that she thinks are going to be really important for local government entities. And sort of I've summed up some bullets from the research that she's been doing and talking about, how there are some existing legal frameworks that are already being applied to AI usage, and regulating use and making sure that entities are approaching AI in a way that addresses risk, and really getting into tying this to use cases and existing litigation that sort of stress the importance of ethical and transparent AI development, and really emphasizing risk literacy, governance, and community impact in how we're setting up our usage of AI in local government. So her research is providing a foundation for us as we sort of think about potential content in this niche area. And we will have more follow up on this in the future as we meet, sort of outline what could be a potential course and content that we can bring back to the group. But if anybody on the team is interested in getting involved and has an interest in anything related to insurance or risk management in general around AI, let us know, because as with our other outputs, as we start getting some team energy and synergy around these concepts, that'll be a great, we can form a team that can sort of help move this forward like we have with the other elements and other projects in the working group. The next one up here is this Chief Information Security Officer Training, CSIOs. Albert and I met with Bloomberg and a group of, like, a coalition of CISOs past Friday. And Albert, do you want to give us a touch base on this one?
Yeah, and Rich, was there a slide attached to this, or were we just talking over it?
Oh my gosh, I thought I was sharing my screen the whole time. I'm so sorry. When
No
Jim,
problem.
yes. Let me get it where it needs to be. I really thank you for that call out. Are you seeing it now?
Yeah.
So this is what I was walking through before. Sorry you couldn't see it and had to just listen to me. But this is where we are with the CISOs.
Thanks, Rich. I'll highlight. So if we're thinking about all of these different branches of upskilling, and education, readiness, support for our government agencies, if Jim was walking us through what is being done on the fire and emergency management side, another element that we are working on right now is around cybersecurity, with our CISOs. We met with Bloomberg around putting together an initial training for that, and I'll actually let me I'll put the link to the training that we provided in the chat as well. And this is just a primer to move into what we hope will be a similar style of education that we are putting together for fire now with CISOs. Now, the CISO work is still very much in the starting phases. And I'm just curious from folks on the call, if anyone is coming from like a cybersecurity background or is interested in this space, that might want to work a little more closely around how we're thinking about the type of education that a public sector CISO and their cybersecurity team would need. I've put this in the chat, and I'm happy, Rich, I'll take your lead on this. I'm happy to walk through a bit of that, but I'm also curious from folks on the call, if anyone's, coming from a cybersecurity background or might be interested in this vertical.
Hey, Albert. I'd be interested in helping out with that. I'm going to turn on my camera so you can see me. So
Jay.
I'm the CISO for my municipality here in Colorado.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it would be what we can, what we're basically trying to put together is what do CISOs need to know around this? And this is both a mixture of, Jay, us kind of talking through like, okay, what do you feel like are your gaps right now? What do you want to share with folks? And then we can, typically what we do is we just split off into like a small group to talk through this over a course of an hour, craft some stuff together, see what makes sense. And then we go from there.
Absolutely.
Great. I see Pratul in the chat is interested also, who is the head of information security for MTC.
Hello, everyone.
Very-
Thanks. Yeah, I can look closely, work with you on this. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect size group. You know, it's good to have just a couple folks put together the material, and then what we'll do is we'll then share the material back out to this broader group for feedback in, you know, next month or so.
I also
Great. So
see Eleanor and Tom in the chat, also raising their hands. Eleanor and Tom Gilbert. Mhm.
perfect. Awesome. Then Rich, I'll just put I saw okay, so Pratul, um Jay, Eleanor, and Tom, I'll put us on a group email and then we can get that kicked off.
Okay. And if you want to share a couple of slides from that presentation, I think we have time. You want?
Yeah. Happy to. Um let's see if I can my PowerPoint will load quickly. Uh and perfect. Okay. Can you hold on? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Um, all right. So I'll just highlight what we covered here was AI risks to individuals. So thinking about what type of cybersecurity training you want to provide to your staff wide, what risks we're seeing across an enterprise. So if you're thinking about data loss prevention, data governance, how to make sure that you're not leaking data out with new AI tools. We talked a little bit about that. And then what we can follow up with, Rich led an exercise around from that group of CISOs around how to actually, you know, get a better understanding of what needs there are. Couple things that I'll just highlight, and this is something that I'll give a huge shout out to Layla Doty, who's part of my team here at the city of San Jose, in crafting the fastest deep fake or fastest spear phishing email I've ever seen, for me in particular, by just taking my public LinkedIn profile, a generic prompt saying, "Hey, write an urgent email that's going to get them to click on a message." And all of a sudden it's producing industry specific jargon. It's telling me, hey, I need a privacy impact assessment, which is like, you know, for my privacy officer brain, that is a key language for us, and a sense of urgency to start reviewing something, to click here and review that PIA, right? This is the bread and butter standard that we're seeing right now. The other big thing that I'll highlight, that we're seeing a bunch of right now is internal LLMs. So you think about your Copilot. If you have Gemini, if you have a Google environment, maybe it's Gemini. Plenty of other companies are doing like document retrieval services across your enterprise. Most of those are just basing it off of your existing permissions in your organization. And if you know, if you told me, uh, do you trust that everyone has properly shared documents across your organization? I would sooner buy a beach house in Iowa. This is not going to happen. This is where we see so much struggle happening right now, and how much it's important to both educate our staff around what type of leakage exists, and that it's important to not share with everyone in your organization, but just with the select people that need to know. But also thinking about the enterprise level controls that we can institute to mitigate some of this risk. So this is something where we shared this with Bloomberg, and Rich, what I see as the opportunity here is actually having the Matt and the other person from Bloomberg actually serve as the drivers, where our team here can serve as hopefully the brain trust around putting more of this material together. And we can have a joint sort of Bloomberg X, with GovAI Coalition CISO training that we're able to put out together.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, there's your daily dose of cybersecurity scares. Hope that that's, made your Wednesday better.
Thanks so much, Albert. I thought that was a really interesting session, and they got into the Miro board similar to we did when we kicked off the AI education working group, and started sharing and brainstorming ideas there that I think they're going to sort of continue with as we have this discussion. So I thought that was really helpful, and starting to give some direction around what things they want to cover. But I like this idea of partnering with them to develop and deliver this training. So I think it'll be really interesting. So beyond that, there was in the last meeting there was a conversation that started around sort of an interest in forming an upskilling subgroup, and I don't know if Lon is on the call today. Um, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people,
I'm
but
on
we're
the.
in a
It's Rick.
past meeting. Oh, Rick is here. Great. So, I'll turn it over to you to if you want to talk about what happened. There was a small working group that formed that sort of has, been working and sort of ironing out this concept and what they want to offer. So,
Yeah, I'll keep it really brief. Rich and Albert were both supportive. Lan is extremely well networked and brought a really good group of people together, including a number of people from city governments and that are doing it at very different levels of depth. I wrote as a summary of the meeting, the core concept is AI upskilling, as I was hearing it from the education group, which is what attracted me to it, is a lot about training for the masses, for the main people, the people across the offices, and then being able to evangelize best practices and such. But it's not for the deeper training that I was envisioning, like among the IT team or the application developers that are doing the more sophisticated programs. And I'm not trying to push an agenda. I just wanted to explore whether that was actually a need in the group. And so I wrote 3 takeaways from the meeting and well, I'll just read those really quickly. There's interest in a curated playbook that cities could replicate to quickly launch AI literacy trainings for their staff, both general and in specific units like firefighting, which could draw on work from the adoption, education, and use cases working groups. So that's one that I think resonates with Albert in particular, I think. Second, there is a clear need for keeping human capital up to date on skills, and there are already examples of cost-effective programs and platforms that can be recommended and shared across cities. The person in Coral Gables especially had a really nice background on that. And I wrote, there's value in creating learning paths with deeper training in AI skills that are more akin to internships or apprenticeships and enable mastery for those who want to have a broader impact in career path. And so those are my current takeaways. And so what I'm hoping we'll do with the working group is see where the priorities are for the people who are in it and make sure we get it off the ground, and then dedicate energy towards any of those objectives with clear two-way communication with this team and Albert and Rich in particular, to make sure that we're not overlapping with other groups and that we're contributing and augmenting. So that's it.
thanks so much for that update, Rick. And it was great to be a part of that meeting because I think there's such a lot of energy that came up around that topic. And, I think the team is really spending some time fleshing out the concept of what they want to do within this small sub-working group of this committee. So I'm really excited to hear how that's going to evolve, and looking forward to more feedback from that group as they continue to sort out and flesh out their concept. So great work, Rick and team, on that. The other element, I have this policy update. I just wanted to reemphasize that the Readiness and Adoption Committee also does have a policy aspect. The other policy committee working group was sort of absorbed into the Readiness Committee, and Sahar is approaching her engagement around policy as office hours and working individually with specific agencies on a one-on-one basis to help them think about and approach AI policy implementation at their agencies. So if your agency is struggling around policy adoption or policy related issues around AI, Sahar is a great person to engage with and potentially have some individual dialogue with people at your agency that are the representatives around those issues. So wanted to put a space here for that. And Sahar, did you want to comment on any of this? I saw you unmuted. Okay. She said she may be not be speaking today. So also wanted to talk that we are looking at a potential policy and AI training, partnering with Quinn from the Center of Democracy and Technology, and looking about the specific AI education directly for policymakers. And Sahar and I are meeting with Quinn next week to talk about and flesh out that concept and talk about what that may look like. So that is on the agenda as well.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, everyone. This is Sahir, and I, like Rich said, if you need any help with, or even want to get started and want, any individual or person, pertaining to your own organization, if there is any help or specific situation you need for adoption of the policy or crafting the policy, reach out to me. If you do not get all the information in the links or the material provided in the coalition, you can always reach out to me. I also will publish my office hours. So yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahar. Really appreciate it. See, we're sort of at the end of the agenda today. I always have these ongoing action items. We've built quite a lot of resources as we've gone along in this working group, especially the AI sort of education side of this, as we've sort of moved almost a year now. Has it been a year? I guess it's over a year now, Albert, right? Doesn't seem possible. It's moved so fast.
It's only been a year. That's how I kind of feel about it.
Yeah. But there are plenty, if you have access to the SharePoint or Teamspace, there are plenty of AI education resources there in the education folder. There are sample starter decks for discussing AI with your agencies and educating your workforce. There's some cybersecurity information. There's sort of AI 101 for everybody information that's in there. And those are really great starting points if you're thinking about how to kick off an education discussion at your agency. Also, we have what we have called the AI education landscape. This is a resource that was put together by Dr. Giselle Walters from the AI Procurement Lab, and it's essentially a list of trainings for AI geared towards public sector workers. It's a mix of free and cost-based, fee-based training resources there. And that resource can be added to any time by this group, but there are quite a few courses on there already that are really worth checking out, depending on what your needs are. And the The spreadsheets really has a lot of great information about each training, like who the audience is, what the cost is, what their specific focus is, and other relevant issues. It's in a nice spreadsheet that you can access. Also, there is a comments tab or a feedback tab on that spreadsheet. If you do ever use one of those resources, it's to give us comments and feedback on what you thought of the course content and things you liked, things you may not have liked. It's just a great resource. So, feel free to dive in to the AI education folder and access these resources. And as you've seen, we have quite a few projects brewing, and that's really exciting to see. Some are at various different stages, as you've seen today. Jim is at the tail end of his first course, and the other ones are just in the concept phase and everywhere in between. So, really excited to see all the energy around these projects. And if you have any project ideas for something you're not seeing in the meeting today, let us know. Let Albert and I know, and we can see if there's synergy in the group and energy. People want to jump in and help participate, like you've seen in the meeting today, and push ideas forward. So we're always looking for people that are really wanting to dive into either an existing project or to a new project. So want to just encourage that as well. Albert, they're asking where the folder can be found. Is there a link we can share to the folder with them?
Yeah, Rich, do we want the folder for all the educational material?
Yeah, I think so. Just the top level. I think that would be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you
There you
very
go.
much.
And yeah, and in there you'll find there's an AI training landscape that has a variety of different trainings that people have already provided, and there is all of the folders of all the trainings that we've talked about here. So from public safety to public engagement to CISO, that's already underway.
Great. Thank you, Albert. And everybody, when people signed up to this, do they get automatically access to that folder? Does anybody need to reach out for access information?
I'm tracking on folks that are having access issues right now. Just a flag for um um we only give full teams access to our government partners and our nonprofit. So what I'm doing for our vendors is I'm trying to give you access to specifically our readiness and adoption space, so that way you can see everything that we're talking about. But I am in the process of making sure that you all have that access.
Great. Thank you, Albert. And if you ever can't access anything, you can reach out to me or Albert directly to post meeting. If anything in the links like we send around a bunch of links in the follow-up messaging from the meeting itself. So I'll be sending something out with updates and links. And if you ever can't access anything, just let Albert and I know. We can troubleshoot individually with people that are having access issues there as well. Okay, well, we are at the end of the predefined content. I wanted to just open up and see if anybody had anything else they wanted to discuss, any other questions about the working group, anything that we need to discuss before we all go on our merry ways.
Yeah, if I could, real quick, I think there's some confusion about the education working group. So does that group still exist, or was it rolled into this group with the two monthly meetings?
Albert, you want to take that
So,
one?
yeah. So great question, Jim. So this is that group. This is the new education group, it's here, it's meeting here, and it's meeting 2 times a month. You should have the calendar invite for that. If you've registered over Zoom, this is that space for that conversation. And what I want to highlight is it's times like these at the tail end of these meetings, alongside as Sarah releases or shares links to her office hours, that if you're looking just to get started, you don't quite know where to get started on adopting your AI policies, governance documents, things like that. You can sign up for a one-on-one time with her or with someone else on the team, or we can take this time right here at the end to have those conversations.
Okay, cool. So two things then. The Thursday meeting still shows up on the calendar, on the master calendar, and I think that was part of my confusion. So when I go to the master calendar, the Google Calendar, it's still there on Thursday the 17th. And then how do we go about, this is probably a question for Rich, getting our subcommittee for the public safety stuff, getting that on a regular cadence also?
I'm sorry, the subcommittee for what, Jim?
For the public safety, for the course we're working on right now, for the fire service course. Because there was, I think we got 4 or 5. I know Letty's on this call. Myself, we had a couple chiefs from Florida who want to be involved, and it's just I'm having a hard time getting everybody together.
Oh, okay. Well, we should probably circle back to that group that wants to focus on the police side of that, and just I think maybe gauge continued interest on that side of the fence. I have a contact I've reached out to too to see if they want to participate. So maybe because we haven't touched on that in a while, we might need to refresh um, that team and sort of try to find a space to meet and move it forward.
Okay. Well, I'm
I,
seeing
I can always put space on it on any meeting deck if the group wants to present something back to the larger group. Or if we want to sort of refresh it with the group, I could have that as an agenda on the next time too also.
Yeah, I just think we need time to talk amongst ourselves where we're not spending time with the entire group to
Yeah.
hash out some of the detail stuff. And I'm thinking if the larger group is not using that Thursday 11 o'clock slot anymore, we might be able to grab that for our subcommittee and use that specifically for the public safety subcommittee working group.
Yeah. That works for me.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, things that we need to resolve before we end the meeting today? It's great to see all the new people on the call today. Welcome. And you'll see as you attend these meetings, not everybody can attend everyone, but we really what we really want from these meetings is to surface ideas and feedback on all of the different projects and elements that we're working on, because that's how we make them really effective and make them really represent the true needs of the people that we're trying to reach. So I want to really encourage people to raise your hand, share any questions, challenge us on anything you see. We love feedback in all shapes and sizes. So really looking for this brain trust to give us comments and feedback back. Really want to encourage that in the future. So
I have a question. Sorry, I cannot find a place to raise my hand
that's okay.
on a Zoom call. Sorry, my name is Nicole, and actually, I kind of seen the documents being shared during this discussion. And do we all have access to those documents, or do I have to reach out to the person who was presenting the documents?
You go ahead, Albert.
Yeah. Nicole, if you put your email in the chat, I should be able to provide you access to this material.
Okay, that sounds perfect. I was particularly interested in the document that kind of shows the security concern with the ChatGPT, and especially for the public sector space. So yeah, I'll provide my email on the chat.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks, Jim, for those comments in the chat. Both Jims, Jim Green and Jim Brown. Thank you very much. We're really excited about the momentum that has been created with this working group and the different projects that we're working on. So it's lots of ideas have surfaced in this group and have synergized later into actual projects and things that we're working on. So that's really what we want to see with this group. And to the extent that you can get involved and engaged, we really encourage that as much as we can. So looking forward to those of you that are new coming back and kicking off in 2 weeks now instead of 4 weeks. So we'll be back with more information in our next meeting on, let's see, the 16th. Yeah, so we'll see you again on the 16th at 12 o'clock. Thanks everybody for coming today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.